Howdy, howdy, all you cool cats and kittens. Welcome back to another day here on Anti Tools Farm. It's another day, another dollar. We're working on getting that bag, as the kids these days would say. Or
Is
maybe
that
they
what it
wouldn't
is?
say.
Getting bag?
Getting that
Getting that
bag.
bag? I've not heard that one. Is
What
the bread in the bag?
the bread
Because
is in
that's
the
the one
bag.
I'm familiar with.
It's a bag full of bread. Mmm.
Just a bag o' bread. Let's get it.
George
How you
says,
doing, Jared?
"Oh, I'm good. I'm just checking my mail." George sent me 35 stone, which was probably super
Oh,
expensive to send through the mail. Thanks, George.
thanks, man. I would have come picked it up for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Outside of checking the mail, I'm happy. I'm healthy, mostly.
Now
And
hold on, that's not what you said earlier. I don't want to tell on you. Is that a HIPAA violation?
oh, well, you're not my doctor, so
Oh,
no.
nice. No rules. Jared's sick, y'all.
It's true. That is the life of somebody who's stressed out all the time. But we're here in Stardew Valley where stress isn't a thing.
I have a coworker who's really into gaming, and she said that she tried Stardew Valley and could not play it because it was too stressful for her.
That's somebody who's
And
never
I
played
just,
Harvest Moon.
it was just so interesting because like I love the cozy vibes, but there is just a lot of like optimization that you can do. I think that was what got her is
Trying to
she
be
was
the
always worried that
best.
she wasn't playing it right.
Yeah.
That is why we just gave up tools because you can't play it much wronger than that.
Yeah. True. And yet also it feels so right.
Hmm. I am picking up some more Starfruit. We have lots of them.
Can I turn off George's TV?
That would be so rude.
Also, just looking at the living room here, are they okay? George is in a wheelchair, so he could, in theory, sit anywhere. But they've chosen to plug their TV into the wall, drag it all the way out into the middle of the room, and put it on the floor. Come on, guys.
Babarma says cozy vibes are in Arma.
Cozy vibes
I don't know
are in
about that.
Arma.
I don't know a lot about Arma, but the two things I do know conflict with that.
So I will say that it's surprising for a game that's about war. The maps are huge, right?
Mm.
Like 200 square kilometers huge. They're really big. And so you spend a lot of time walking around and not fighting,
Okay.
depending on what the mission is. And so, there's a lot of time just hang out. It's a beautiful, like, a lot of it is naturey. Depends on the map you're on, but some of my favorites are like tropical jungle. And there's actual paths. So it's basically like taking a virtual hike, but with extra stuff to carry around. And
Uh-huh.
it's really chill. There's bird song, beautiful views.
Wow.
I don't know. It's
That's pretty neat.
it can be nice.
Okay. I'm convinced. Cozy vibes are in Arma. That reminds me of the one time I went paintballing. My I was visiting my cousins who lived on just a huge forested property, and they had just gotten paintball guns and were very excited about them. So they invited me and my brother to go out shooting with them, and it was super dark by like the sun had set hours ago by the time we got out there. And we were all so scared of getting hit that we just crouched in bushes and shot in the general direction of where we thought the other people were.
Yeah.
And we used up the whole like 150 paintballs without anyone ever getting hit or even seeing another person.
That's so awesome. I feel like that would be the normal response to any sort of like you were in a forest.
Hmm.
I feel like that's just basic human instinct is to like hide in the bushes and then shoot at whatever direction you think people are. You don't have to see them.
Usually, when I'm in the forest, I just kind of amble along until I'm not in a forest.
Oh, true, but if you're expecting to be fighting within the forest.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm not saying every time you go on a hike you need to be crouching in bushes.
Okay, that's good because I've been doing it wrong. Um, Megan in the chat says she just entered and is a little bit too uninformed. I'm just bad at paintball based on one data point.
Them's
That's
the
the whole
breaks.
context. I just used almost half our money on starfruit seeds, but I promise I'll make it all back. This isn't like that other time.
It's a good investment, probably.
Probably.
Speaking of, let's go look at the progress. I haven't been in there in a minute
The progress of what?
of the starfruits in the greenhouse.
Oh, well, yeah, I just harvested a bunch.
Oh wow.
Oh,
Do we have any Oh yeah, you showed me one last stream. Okay. They're like a yellow
yeah.
star-shaped fruit.
Hmm.
How much money do you think we'll make based on what we harvested?
Probably like a billion. I don't know, man. I should do the math.
That's hilarious. That's something a 7-year-old would say. Like, how much money do you think we'll make? Probably like 1 billion.
Have you seen that poorly drawn lines comic where it's like some ants talking about numbers and how they don't understand numbers, and they're
I
saying, "How many
have.
ants do you live on? Do you think live on the moon?" They're like, "I don't know, millions probably."
That's
It's great.
hilarious.
I
And
highly recommend
also,
poorly drawn lines.
if they did live on the moon, it would probably be true. There'd be millions and
Yeah,
millions and millions.
unless they just like were there immediately with no atmosphere, and then it would just take a minute, and then there would be none.
True. They would die. They would. Wait. Okay. Human beings breathe through our lungs, but
Hmm.
ants,
Do not breathe through humans' lungs.
they they don't breathe through our lungs, but they also I don't think have lungs. They have like little holes
Well,
in
really?
their exoskeleton that like allow for the free interchange of gas, I think.
Are you serious?
Yeah,
That's crazy.
right? So then if you put an ant in space or like the moon where there's no
Hmm.
atmosphere, they couldn't hold their breath, which I guess a person couldn't either because the pressure inside of you would probably do bad things in space.
Hmm. Yeah, I
But
learned that from Red Rising.
yeah, indeed, the high rise scene. It's a
Hmm.
great scene. Um, what would happen to an ant? They would just like get all the air sucked out of them, or I don't know. That's a weird
Chat, if you've ever been an
concept.
ant on the moon or been on the moon as a human and seen an ant, how did it go? Jared, you said you've been reading Count of Monte Cristo, right?
Yeah, I have.
You want to tell us about that?
Yeah, so if you are not familiar with the Count of Monte Cristo, let me give you a bad summary. A guy who's a good guy and is successful in his career as a sailor is about to become captain of his own ship and marry the woman he loves when a couple of jealous people conspire to take it away from him by framing him for a political crime in like the Napoleonic era of France, and they get him sent to prison for life by a series of kind of unlucky but perfect storm style coincidences. And he goes to prison and suffers because it's prison, and then eventually meets somebody who helps him turn his life around. And the rest of the story involves hidden treasure and revenge.
Nice. Those are my two favorite things.
My favorite thing is not tools. Um, yeah, it's a interesting book. It's what you would call a classic. I've really
Mm.
enjoyed it, but it is interesting reading it now versus when it was originally written because to the present day it seems so high-minded and like fancy in its language. But that's really just because it's old, right? It was originally written as a series of like newspaper releases. And I don't know if it was published chapter by chapter or subsections within the chapter, but can you imagine if you bought People magazine and there was like a author writing a fictional column in that, and then you collected like 300 People magazines to get the book,
Hmm.
and
And then,
then
like, hundreds of years later, that was just what they were studying in college.
yeah, somebody came along and decided, wait, this is actually really good. we, we should preserve this for the future, and then it becomes a classic. So I guess chat, um, what makes a classic a classic? Because it can't be just that it's old, right?
Yeah, there's lots of old stuff that's not classic.
True.
Megan in the chat says that she has been on the moon but never seen an ant, earthly or lunarly. That is a bold stance to take. Never seen an ant. And she also says that Count of Monte Cristo is the same author as Three Musketeers. I didn't realize that. Those
Yeah.
feel like totally separate domains in my mind. Like Three Musketeers feels like a fun adventure, and I haven't ever read either of them, so this is totally uninformed. But Count of Monte Cristo, I always thought was way more highbrow than Three Musketeers.
Yeah. And
Um,
I've never read Three Musketeers. I have read another book by the same guy called The Man in the Iron Mask, and it's very similar themes. So I'm curious, does the Three Musketeers feature revenge and like dungeons also?
um, yeah, I think it does actually.
Wow.
Okay, we've got some good answers in the chat. So Sinus Relief says teacher says it classic, so it classic. Fair. Um, and then Megan in the chat, who happens to have an English teaching degree, what makes a classic is a committee of old white guys say it's a classic. Okay, there we go. And it was also probably written by an old white dude. Sinus Relief says teacher pick perfect mix of 100% good books and 90% garbage books. Oh, sorry, 10% good books, 90% garbage books, and call them classics. That is a great point because I have been assigned some books to read in high school and college that I absolutely loved. And I've also been assigned some to read that I absolutely hated. And they kind of spoiled me on reading for a while. Um, that 10 to 90% ratio, that sounds right to me.
I'm
Babarma
curious.
says allegedly Doom has hired a bunch of ghostwriters to help him with it. Is that Count of Monte Cristo?
Yeah, probably. It's a really long book.
Oh,
I'm listening to the audiobook version of it, and it's almost 50 hours, I want to say. So, yeah, but the dude probably did hire some ghostwriters. There's also there's several. I would say there's too many characters in the book. It's hard to keep everyone straight, especially audiobook
mm.
style. And yeah, there's like these really long kind of side story type of passages with characters that you don't know already and not enough context. So I could definitely see that being a consequence of the witch. Oh, the
The
witch.
witch. I think she's gonna turn one of our eggs into a void egg.
Is that profitable for us or not?
Um, yeah. We'd have to incubate it to get another void chicken. We would just be like changing out another one of our normal chickens for a void chicken. I think I'll just turn it into mayonnaise instead if you're okay with that.
Yeah.
But Barma says he must have hung out with Dickens. Cover all your plot holes with new characters. Amazing. That's how I run D&D campaigns.
So, Chad, I was curious, what do you think of? What's the first book or piece of literature you think of when you think of the classics?
Jared asked me this question earlier, and the immediate thought I had was Frankenstein. Not because I think it's the penultimate classic, although it is really good, and as Megan in the chat pointed out, not written by an old white guy.
True.
Um, but because my English teacher in high school was so annoyed with her husband because he had read exactly one good book since graduating from high school, and it was Frankenstein, and he talked about it constantly. Every movie, every TV show, every like even tense situation in real life, he'd be like, "Wow, this is just like Frankenstein." And she just wanted to shake him and say, There's other good books.
You can reference them. It's okay. It's okay for everything to not be like the one good book you read. Berkeley, I just pulled something out of the keg and it's a wine bottle full of cauliflower juice. What are you doing?
I'm just brewing what I can brew, man.
This might, you might be an alcoholic. I'm just gonna come out and
Okay,
say it.
just it's not fermented. Maybe. Maybe it is.
Is there a description? Oh no, it just says cauliflower juice, a sweet, nutritious beverage. Never mind. I judged you harshly. And I was wrong.
Vindicated.
Do you want me to sell it or were you gonna drink
Yeah,
it?
sell it.
Okay. I'm gonna replace it with. Oh, I think we sold our pomegranates.
No, they should be in the friendship chest.
Okay. I really
Oh,
want to
let's put a
diamond
starfruit
the
in.
keg. Okay. Where are those live?
They're in the brown chest. Do you want to do it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think I've ever brewed something. Just one.
Center's Relief says the ultimate classic literature Star Trek crossovers Alexander Duras. I don't know if I pronounced that right. Sorry, I'm not in on the Star Trek lore.
All right. So Duras is like a Klingon bad guy in the Star Trek Next Generation series, and every time you hear his name, it's Lieutenant Worf, who is also Klingon, shouting Duras. So, yeah, that would be hilarious.
Babarma says he's addicted to liquid vitamins. I assume that's a Star Trek reference.
No, that's a cauliflower juice reference.
Oh, I see. That yeah, I am the addicted to liquid vitamins. Sorry. Okay, Megan says Pride and Prejudice, anything by Shakespeare, Jane Eyre, To Kill a Mockingbird are some acceptable classics.
Okay, I was thinking of To Kill a Mockingbird as well.
Okay, Sinus Relief said Tequila Mockingbird. I just had to get that out before you started talking about it so that you would trip up over your words every time you said it.
Tequila
Now
Mockingbird.
Please tell us about Tequila Mockingbird.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, that book is also authored by a woman.
Harper Lee.
It's not that old either, relative to a lot of the other books in that list. So that is an argument for age doesn't necessarily make a classic, or if you want to be cool, age doth not a classic make.
Yeah, I read I think it's considered a classic, last week called Cat's Cradle by Kurt Vonnegut. And he was writing, I want to say in the 50s and 60s. Most of his books are like sci-fi books that take place in the 20th century. So it's kind of like 1984, where it's sci-fi, except it already would have happened by now, which is an interesting space to be reading in.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, another example of like stuff that's taught in literature classes that isn't super old. I also got Old Man in the Sea and The Jungle. Other ones I have not read but have heard are good. Ooh, Things Fall Apart. I loved that one in school.
Was that a book about a tribe in Africa that was struggling with like the modernization / colonialism?
Yeah, and mostly like the cultural effects of colonialism, if I remember right. Like it was a very traditional man who was watching his village and his family just kind of change faster than he could cope with.
Yeah.
And some really negative consequences of that.
Yeah, that one did make an impression on me. Man, I remember. I think is that the same book where there's like twins and they have to deal with like the social and cultural ramifications of that within the book?
I don't remember that, but
okay,
quite possibly.
Okay. Would you guys consider?
Also got Poe.
Oh yeah,
Edgar Allan Poe.
Yep.
We're kind of bridging genres here. I think The Jungle is like a short story, right? Or maybe an essay. I don't remember, but Poe with the poetry. Oh,
Was poetry named after Edgar Allan Poe?
probably. Megan says that you might be thinking of East of Eden on the twin thing. That one is like a big allegory for the Bible, and I think there's like a Jacob and Esau characters.
Um, Maybe that's it. I don't think so. I'd have to go do some internet searching to figure it out.
Hmm.
But I don't think I've read East of Eden. I've definitely heard of it though.
If you're interested in learning about classics but don't have time to read them, I can't remember if I talked about this podcast on the show before, but there's one that I love called Book Cheat. It's this Australian comedian who every episode he reads one of the classics and then just summarizes it for a few other guest comedians, and they're very funny and very informative. It's been a nice quick way to get just Cliff Notes version of lots of classics.
Do they do engineering textbooks by any chance?
Not so far, but they do take requests.
Could you do thermodynamics and engineering perspective? So, outside of books, I do a lot of music. I wrote some music today, actually, which
Yeah.
turned out quite well. I guess Berkeley, you'll get to be the judge of that after the stream. But
I'm excited.
something interesting is happening in the music world, but also everywhere all at once right now, which is the
Uh-oh.
subscription economy. And I'm sure some of you like it, some of you hate it. Probably most of you hate it. I hate it.
Can you describe subscription economy?
Yeah. So, particularly with software, companies are moving towards a subscription based model instead of a one time purchase model. So, let's say that and the reason I know about or wanted to bring this up, let's say that you bought an audio plugin to like add a nice guitar amp, a virtual guitar amp to your music that you were writing, and you traditionally would go to a website and you'd pay, whatever the price was, and then you download it and it's yours. And that's it. That's the one transaction. Now, if you wanted updates, if you wanted the newer version, some companies do free updates for life. Some companies do free updates for a certain amount of time. And some companies don't do updates at all. And just good luck. But you've only paid once for the product you downloaded. More and more companies are trying to increase their profits, though, and you could argue support development as well, by charging a subscription fee, whether that's monthly or yearly, for the privilege of having downloaded their software. And there's a pretty complex discussion about, what is ownership? Do I own the software once I've downloaded it? And there's all, you're all familiar with the outrageously long and complex licensing and end of user license agreement paperwork. But I guess the upshot is that music companies are starting to do this, and people aren't happy because traditionally, when you buy audio software, it's yours. You might not get updates forever, but you get the product, and it's never going to be deactivated. It's never going to be disabled.
Just so we're all on the same page, by music software, you mean software for writing music, right?
Yes.
Like GarageBand, not Spotify.
Correct.
Except fancier versions of those two things I just said.
Yeah. Yeah. It's it's GarageBand. It's virtual instruments, all sorts of virtual music creation. Music streaming has either been pay per song or subscription based, or illegal. So, yeah. But I think things are moving towards subscription on a broader scale as well. YouTube is really pushing its premium service. They've started putting more ads and more unskippable ads into videos. Um, and, always putting up notifications, push notifications about getting whatever their service is called. I don't remember. Um, and I find it annoying. You already harvest my data. That's not going to change if I subscribe to you. We don't have to grow infinitely forever and always be making more money than we did last year.
Hmm.
That's my take.
That's a good take.
But, the counter argument about product support and indefinite updates, I get that. If you're working in a like cutting edge creative field where things are always changing quickly, for example, the AI stuff, it makes sense to
Hmm.
pay a subscription because overhead is high for development and it's ongoing all the time. But, in the world of audio plugins, I'm not an audio plugin developer, but from the outsider perspective, things aren't changing that fast. So, you know,
Yeah.
why should I be paying a subscription for a product that hasn't really changed in the last 10 years?
Yeah. Good. Good questions. Sinus Relief in the chat is just spitting some depressing truth. uh, Having to subscribe for healthcare and having a car and having a place to live. Um, yeah.
True.
As far as software, yeah, I've got mixed feelings about this because I do work for a SaaS company, software as a service, where instead of installing the software on your computer, you are using it in a web browser and you're paying us every month to use it. Um, and there's some services like that that I love using. I pay Google Drive $2 every month to be able to have like almost 10 times as much storage as the free tier. And I think that's a great deal. Um, but there's also cases like the one you said where you have already installed the software and it hasn't changed much in the last 10 years. Like, do you really need to be making recurring payments for that? So part of that is like the hardware costs, whereas code actually being run, it's getting run in the cloud, then that's expensive, and I can get that a little bit more. If it's actively being developed, I get that. But it sure is nice. Things like Stardew Valley, where you install it once and pay for it once, and then you keep getting updates for years and years after.
Yeah, it's nice. And it's interesting, just the kind of social contract of that where support for the game is kind of expected and you pay for it, like that justifies the purchase price.
Mm-hmm.
um, but I'm worried that, I don't know, gamers like to complain about video games and the state of gaming. I don't want to be that guy, but
Uh-huh.
I'm curious to see as game prices are increasing, um, if we'll continue to see games being supported for less and less time, by big developers, which seems to have been the trend for the last 5 or so years and might continue. Who knows?
Well, yeah, that's especially depressing since there's also the trend of like at least with AAA studios releasing games before they're done and
Yeah.
just like super buggy, not really ready for the world.
Yeah.
If you combine those two trends, that's really bleak.
Yeah, it's not super fun, but on the other hand, all of the democratization of like computing, the ability to have a computer in your home and the access to open source or free development software has brought us really cool games like Stardew Valley. Smaller
Hmm.
creators tend to treat their games better and to be more serious about delivering quality because it's their passion.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I guess, if you want a good experience, support good creators.
Yeah,
And
well said.
going back to the music world, a lot of people are actually canceling their accounts, removing all the plugins from this company off their computer. They are voting with their wallet basically what they will and won't support. And you know, as frustrating as it is, that's still a choice we get to make. So that's good.
Yeah, it's definitely frustrating to be at this point where it feels like things are moving pretty fast in a subscription direction, but I mean, either we all get desensitized to it or there's a breaking point and companies stop profiting from that move.
Yeah. Berkeley, are we still saving pomegranates and other fruit so that I can give them to people?
Yes, I am putting those in the white chest. I think it's white.
Do you happen to have any additional in your
I have
inventory right now?
three. I've got two pomegranates and an apple on me right now.
You in the cave?
I'm in the greenhouse. I'll come to the chests in just a second.
Oh no, it's okay. I'm coming to you. I want to
Okay.
see what's going on in here.
Right now I'm picking some beets.
What did the ancient seeds grow into?
They produce ancient fruit, I think once a week forever.
Wow.
Those sell for a lot, or we can turn them into wine and sell the wine for even more.
Ancient wine. I guess that makes sense because it's like aged. I think that's a
Yeah,
thing
sure.
people who drink wine like, right?
Yeah. I don't like wine. Um, my daughter recently learned about grapefruit juice, except she calls it fruit grape juice. Super cute. So speaking of games being developed, I wanted to chat with everyone about Haunted Chocolatier. I
Yeah.
don't know if everyone's heard about this, but I am stoked. So this is the game that Concerned Ape, who created Stardew Valley, is working on developing right now. Maybe as we speak. I don't know his schedule, but it. He's released some screenshots and some just like blurbs about what it's going to be like. It looks very similar to Stardew Valley, but the mechanics are going to be really different. He said he created a brand new game engine for it from scratch, which is cool. Because it really would have been easy to like publish a reskin of Stardew Valley and call it Stardew Valley 2, but he seems like he's being a lot more creative than that.
Quality developers.
Yeah. So the premise is that you move to a town, but instead of taking over a farm, you take over a chocolate factory. And I think that you are recruiting ghosts as your workers. And there's a lot more like combat and adventure RPG mechanics than Stardew Valley has. And that is pretty much all we know about it at this point. He's released a little bit of the music and the artwork and things, so you can go check it out if you're interested. Um, he hasn't confirmed if it's in the same universe as Stardew Valley, but a lot of people are theorizing that it looks like it is. Like, I doubt it would be more than small Easter eggs or cameos. Uh, I don't think it'll be like in Pelican Town, for example. But I'm super excited. I wanted to ask people in the chat, one, if you're planning on playing Haunted Chocolatier when it comes out. It doesn't have a release date yet, so we need to be patient. But if you do play it, what are some of the things either from Stardew Valley or different from Stardew Valley that you'd like to see, like as far as game mechanics and how the game works?
So while you work on that, Berkeley, I have to ask, what are the
Hmm.
ethics of having ghosts work in your factory? Do you pay them?
I think you pay them.
What do you pay them
I
in?
don't. The souls of the damned. Maybe that's what they are. Hmm. I mean, Junimos ask for like you know, a pomegranate in exchange for rebuilding a building.
Yeah.
I feel like you could make similar trades with a ghost, right?
Here's some bones of a dead person. Build this building for me?
Yeah.
Hmm.
I will kill 1 million bats if you make me 1 million truffles.
Wow. Follow up question. Is it moral to have them work for you at all? Because, like, shouldn't you be helping them find rest?
Maybe this is how they're finding rest.
All right. It's like therapy, but for ghosts.
Yeah.
I could get down with that.
Scamble says ghosts get paid in screams. I feel like that was the plot of Monsters Inc., right?
You're walking around hoarse all day every time it's payroll. It's hilarious.
Babarma says maybe a manufacturing optimization sim. That is something that I was thinking about. Stardew Valley has a few ways of like automating your farm. There's like Junimo huts where the Junimos will collect things for you, and of course there's sprinklers so you don't have to water. But I was thinking it would be cool if Haunted Chocolatier has a lot more like I don't know if this is what you were thinking, Paparma, but like kind of automation, complex processes. Maybe not right at first because steep learning curves aren't super fun, but just ways to upgrade your business by automating it would be cool. Um, Megan says, I'll buy it the second it comes out. I'm hoping for even more fun NPCs and maybe some more mechanics of running your own business to make money. In Stardew, you can ignore farming, but I'm hoping you have to do the chocolate business and have that be the only money making option.
Yeah,
Yeah. Just to build on the running your own business, it looked like there were also mechanics for like, um, in this game, you just like dump everything in a chest and then Mayor Lewis comes and buys it from you. But it looked like in Haunted Chocolatier, you were like setting prices on things. So doing a little bit of Adam Smith manipulation. Um, that could be fun. Fun side of the game. Campbell says maybe the ghosts of the Oompa Loompas. Ooh, I don't know how we feel about making Oompa Loompas work even more than they already did. But they would be good at it. They got that chocolate on their resume.
I want to see consequences. Like just following off of what Megan said. Oh, you didn't work in the chocolate factory? Now people are mad at you for having a derelict building in town.
Can you imagine if, like, while we were playing this game, NPCs were constantly running up to us, like, why haven't you planted yet? Why do you only have one cow?
Just roasting your farm all the time. Why are there so many weeds here?
Your grandpa would be disgusted.
Okay, Haunted Chocolatier has to have creepy grandpa scene, and then you need to be able to recruit dead grandpa later.
Honestly, this game should have recruiting dead grandpa.
True.
Have him pull his weight around here. He only gave us a free farm. He didn't even help us run it.
That's true. And he left it in terrible shape.
But Barman says NPC hint mechanic. Oh yeah, there's like a little bit of hint like dialogue, like very very early in this game. People will ask you if you've like been to the museum yet or been to the woods, just kind of like prodding you to explore a little bit more. But yeah, more hints would be cool. I also wanted to ask people if you could, if he does end up having Easter eggs or cameos, like characters from Stardew Valley showing up in Haunted Chocolatier, who would you want to see show up again?
I feel like maybe the old Monster Guild dudes as ghosts.
Mhm. Oh, that'd be cool. Megan says, not Lewis. Amen to that. I was thinking it'd be cool if it took place in the past and you got to see Marlon or like Gunther as young people.
Oh,
Kind of the role that Vincent and Jazz have in this one. Alternatively, if it's way in the future, it would be cool to see like Vincent play someone like Gus or George even, and have Jazz play like, I don't know, the wizard type character.
yeah. Who will they grow up to become?
Mm.
That's interesting. Well, I mean, you could do that if you set it here in Stardew Valley, and maybe the old Joja Mart building gets bulldozed and turned into the chocolate factory, but there's ghosts because it's built on an old building.
Ghosts of cashiers past. We've talked about how maybe Abigail is the wizard's daughter. It'd be fun if she was like the wizard type character. Assuming there is a wizard type character, I'm just assuming that all the same archetypes will be filled. Maybe it'll be just an original cast.
That's the tough thing about games like this. Like, it could be anything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it could really be any setup. Maybe it's a tower defense game. We don't know.
Maybe there's definitely towers in the screenshots. Have you seen those like fire lookout towers that they have in the forest in the northwest?
Yeah.
There is a one of the screenshots that Concerned Ape has on his blog. Looks like one of those
Oh, interesting. That would be
at the top
neat
of a very long staircase.
to like be, I don't know, maybe out in like the foothills of some mountain.
Hmm. If the whole game was just a wildfire watching simulator, got your binoculars.
So, since there's a ghost element, I think it'd be really neat if you're like solving mysteries,
Mm.
like maybe that's how you get the ghost to come work for you is you like build trust by figuring things out that it didn't or wants to know but doesn't because they're dead. I don't know if that makes
Yeah,
sense. Like how did they die? Who killed them? Or similar.
yeah, that'd be cool. Nice. Well, I am super excited for this game. Again, no release date, so I probably shouldn't be getting this excited yet, but I trust Concerned Ape completely.
Berkeley, I'm hoping they add annoying like traveling salesmen.
Good lead in. Um, Scamble says she loves a good ectoplasm truffle. Did you catch one?
No, but if ghosts are making the chocolate
Mm. Oh, yeah, yeah, there
and
we
they're
go.
not wearing proper PPE.
Letting themselves seep out into their products.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Do you have time for one more day?
Let me check the clock. Yeah, I can do one more.
Okay. Because I've got a story to tell about shady business practices. No, not really. I had a bad experience with a salesperson this week. Um, so someone was going door to door advertising solar energy, as many people do, um, offering to like install solar panels on our house and had a whole financing plan, promised it would pay for itself. And it all sounded really good. So we signed a deal with them. And then that night went and did some more of the math on our own. And the numbers he had given us weren't adding up. It turned out instead of paying for itself, it was going to cost us like an extra $500 a year for electricity if we did this solar deal that they had offered us. And so my wife called to cancel the contract. There was like a 3 day grace period where you could cancel. So, very normal thing to do. And the salesperson got like so mad and unreasonably rude about it. Um, just like insulting my wife over it. And then when like trying to upsell her, offering all these new deals. And she finally like cut him off and said she didn't have time to listen to any more upsells. Nice job. Being assertive is hard. And he hung up on her
Wow.
at that point. Super obnoxious. But he said he would cancel the contract. Fast forward like 4 or 5 days later, and someone from the same company calls and says that he's supposed to come do an inspection of our roof that day. And so my wife texts the salesperson and says, like, oh, I forgot to mention, after he hung up, he texted a few more like upsell requests, trying to sweeten the deal more.
That's so like irrationally bold, you know?
Yeah. You said you're not interested, so do you want more of the thing you're not interested in? Um, and we didn't respond to those texts. But when we heard from the inspector, we did text him and said, "Hey, did you actually cancel? Because this inspector thinks he's supposed to come to our house." And he was super rude again and was like, "Oh, you didn't have time to answer my text last week. You couldn't take the 2 seconds, but now you want a response from me?" And it's like, yeah, you're ignoring my wishes and just like continuing to try to sell me things I don't want. I didn't respond to that. But then, like, when you maybe didn't cancel this multiple thousands of dollars contract, now we do want a response. That's like very rational.
Yeah.
Anyway, then we called someone else at the company and worked with them, and it was fine. But just if you're a salesperson and someone tries to cancel, you don't need to be rude about it. You can just be chill. That's my takeaway. My other takeaway is don't trust people if their teeth are too white, because his were, and I should have seen it coming. Have you ever met those people? It's like what, just unnaturally white
Oh yeah.
teeth.
Yeah. I always wonder when I see people like that, like, does it hurt to have teeth that white? Like,
Mm,
you got to be doing some sort of like bleaching or something to achieve that.
yeah, and then it just like doesn't even look good. It just looks unnatural.
Yep.
I don't know. Speaking of people that always talk about Frankenstein, it reminded me of Frankenstein because in the book it describes how all the monsters' individual features were very nice, but together they were horrifying. That's what I feel like about people whose teeth are too white.
It's like an
Like,
uncanny valley type of
yeah, it's supposed to
situation.
be good, but it just makes it stick out from everything else and reminds you that the rest of the face is not like a porcelain statue.
Yeah. That's so strange. Oh man, is it the Mysterious Benedict Society where that's one of the traits of the people that work for the villain in that
Oh, good question.
series?
I'm not sure.
There's some like YA or children's book that has that as one of the traits of the bad guys. They all have teeth that are too white.
Hmm. I feel like that works really well in a children's book because I'm realizing now that this is just a childish aversion that I have. But when you're
Berkeley,
a kid and the world doesn't make sense and you see teeth that are too white, it just, it gives you the ick, as
it's
they say.
okay. Trust your gut. Trust your instinct.
Gamble says in ancient Japan, black teeth were considered the beauty standard. Huh.
Yeah. I I wonder if that hurt. Like I think they stained them with some sort of it was either like insect shell or like a some sort of nut maybe.
Huh.
I could be completely wrong about that. I'm this is from cursory social media posts a long time ago. So, as a power engineer
Mm-hmm.
who is working or going to be working with power grids and dealing with electricity, solar panels are such an interesting problem because they're at once, you know, a net positive for the earth is my understanding of the current generation of panels. Like they're cost efficient, they're getting more and more energy efficient as well, so they're able to convert more electricity into, sorry, convert more light into electricity than the old panels could.
Mm-hmm.
And it all looks great on paper, but when you actually connect them to the grid, it causes a lot of problems for other types of generation. And because power demand isn't uniformly distributed, like, when you get up and you take a shower and get your water heater going, if it's electric, or, cook breakfast and you're using a waffle iron, like all of those things when you start your day use a lot of energy. And because everybody tends to get up and get going to work at a similar time, because that's how we've organized our society, it creates this huge demand for power. And solar can't meet that most of the time because the sun isn't up and
Mm-hmm.
super bright. Um, and solar isn't something that can generate more energy on demand. It makes what it makes. So it's just a nightmare to integrate into the system. And then other types of renewable energy, um, like hydroelectric, for example, uh, actually can be damaged by the swings in solar output. Um,
Oh, interesting.
because the turbine, you can't create more energy than gets used in the grid, otherwise things blow up. So the more reliable and controllable types of energy um, like hydroelectric dams have to spin up and down to adjust for wind and solar. And if it's not managed correctly, it can do real damage to
Mm.
those very expensive, very complicated bits of infrastructure. So, yeah, good for the environment, a headache for
Yeah.
engineers.
So how much is that mitigated by having like a local battery on site at your house? Because I
Um,
know that's like an expensive option, but it is an option.
yeah. So if you look into, so you can use like compressed air, or there's like spinning mass, like flywheel type of things. There's a lot of different ways you could try to store that energy. And energy storage is good if you have more than you need, if that makes sense. So if you are putting all the energy your solar panel creates into your house and then any excess goes into the battery, that's fine. But if you connect that battery to the grid and now you're trying to sell energy back to the utility, which is what gets a lot of people interested in solar,
Mm-hmm.
um, the same problem persists, right? Because it's not um, consistent. Now, with a battery, that does mitigate it somewhat, but it still doesn't completely solve the problem. Um, Go ahead.
Is there a world where the energy company controls the battery and decides when to pull from it to take back to the grid?
Yeah, so you could do that. It's expensive to do that for every household as
Hmm.
solar becomes more common. But one of the interesting bits of information is that if you, right now, and the way that it's structured, this is my understanding from college classes, not actual, work in the industry. So it could be different. But my understanding is that utilities, once you decide to sell power to the grid, you're either consuming power or you're producing power, at the little connection where your house hooks up to the power lines. So there's no world where the utility gets to decide right now whether or to accept power from you or not. And if you are generating more power than your house is using, it's going onto the grid, basically, if you're connected to the grid at all. And
Mm-hmm.
as a utility, we can't decide, oh, you don't get to be part of the grid anymore. Under most circumstances, there's only a few like emergency type situations where they can choose to cut power off to any of their customers. So if you're supplying power, the utility can't just like send that into the ground, or like get rid of it
Mm-hmm.
essentially. They have to accept it and then move it and sell it elsewhere. So, in my opinion, an easy answer that would require some policy changes would be to just say, okay, you are generating excess power. We don't want to buy it from you, so we're just going to, dump it to ground. It's gonna spin a wheel, or it's going to do some other thing that uses the energy without it actually going into the grid overall. Um, and that way you can keep a net balance, but they're not allowed to do that right now. So,
Hmm. Interesting.
was that
Um,
coherent?
yeah,
Okay.
definitely. Scamble says there's a company that is starting to manufacture solar-powered flywheel generator. That sounds similar, maybe something you said earlier.
Yeah.
It claims to store enough energy to power a home for 2 days. Wow, that sounds
Yeah.
really nice.
Those systems are a lot better because it's regulatable.
Okay.
But I would have to look more at the details, obviously, to see how great for the grid that is. But for your own use, that sounds great because you've got energy storage, so it can meet your varying demand as you
Yeah.
need.
Another thing that I heard from one of my coworkers, I'm not sure how feasible this is, but right now the model is if you're interested in solar panel, you fund it personally and you put it on top of your own house. And that I think sounds like it contributes to a lot of these problems you're talking about, where it's a headache for the power engineers. Um, an alternative would be like the city says we're gonna make a solar farm. Anyone that wants to can buy into it, or maybe it's funded just with tax dollars. Um, but if you have all your solar in one place, does that make it easier for the power company to control and reason with? and integrate into the rest of the system?
Yeah, from an integration standpoint, yes, it does make things easier to predict and to design for, but you still have the same demand problems that you would have anyways, where solar's peak
Mm,
generation happens in the afternoon, and that's actually when the lowest demand, besides like everyone's asleep at night, that's the lowest demand that you're going to see during the day. So it's still generating excess and it's still causing, large generation problems. But from a management standpoint, it would be a lot easier to manage when it's isolated. And I will say there's a lot of money in power generation. It's expensive to get into, but if you're looking for a stable investment that's going to always return, you know, investing in generation is a great way to make a lot of money. Um,
mm,
and, if you're investing in green energy, and you, of course, have to make sure that the project itself is actually feasible. Um, but if the project itself is well designed, it's a really solid investment, and I think it would be great to have municipalities getting involved. That's how a lot of the hydroelectric power got started, was uh,
yeah.
federal projects, and it powers a ton, you know, millions and millions and millions of people's homes and businesses and all sorts of stuff, and it makes money for the government that they don't have to tax you for. So
Mm,
there's that.
yeah. Yeah. And I also want to call out, I learned that right now there's just really generous tax credits associated with solar panels, or solar power, whether you're building your or buying your own solar panels, or if you're buying into like a large collective solar farm. You can get like 30% of your money back as a tax credit. So now's a good time to get in. Just don't get in through Ion Solar. That's the company that harassed us.
Yeah.
Control and Delete says, why not use it to charge a water battery? I think that's the flywheel storage that you were talking about. Just don't touch the flywheel. Don't let it go out of balance. Yes.
Yes.
Important notes.
There's all sorts of mechanical batteries. Water battery is one of them. You can use it to lift huge weights. There's just a lot of ways you can store energy mechanically. The problem with water is that it's becoming an increasingly precious resource.
Mm,
And so it's tough to decide whose water gets taken away to make the water battery. Um, but yeah, you could, if you have the money to spend, you could probably bring seawater in and then make it all nice that way. But um,
you and you and Control and Delete are in the same wavelength because he said salt water in all caps, right? That's you were saying that.
yeah, then you have to worry about the maintenance, and it's not cost effective
Mm,
at that point, to my understanding. But personally, I think that that's probably going to be the direction we go if fission doesn't become more popular, fusion doesn't work out. Um, I think we're going to go solar, and we're going to have to just work on making those sorts of mechanical battery investments, because that's kind of the low hanging fruit right now. We understand the science, we understand the application. It's just expensive.
yeah. To quote Queen Anna of Arendelle, just do the next right thing. It's nice that we're at a stage where there's big problems, but a few like good steps forward on solutions. All
Berkeley,
right.
it's that time of day, and I immediately started getting to work with my. I harvested. I'm.
Get back here.
I know.
Yeah. Just real quick before we end, I want to say what we accomplished today. So we were able to sell quite a bit of starfruit and plant some more starfruit. We've also got some trees in the desert that are fully grown now, and I put some tappers on them, which will let us grow some more ingredients to make more kegs. So I think maybe next session we should try to make a shed, and we can start filling that shed with kegs and really scale up our wine production.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that's exciting. Do we need a permit for that from Mayor Lewis, or do we just bribe him?
I think that the bribe is included in the price that you pay to Robin, and she bribes him.
I see. Well, awesome. Thank you everybody for coming out. It's been a joy interacting with you. If you aren't right now, read a book. It's good for you. It will enrich your soul. It might make you happy. It might make you sad, but it'll definitely make you feel something.
Or check out Book Cheat and listen to comedians describe books to you.
Yeah,
Almost as good.
it is almost. It's probably better for your mood.
Yeah.
Um, if you are new to the channel and you want to follow us on our socials, you can find our Linktree link in the About section of our Twitch page or in the description of our YouTube video area. We post updates on our Instagram, and of course, we hang out here, so you can find us all the places you might expect to look, especially if you're looking at our Linktree.
Yep. Thanks everyone for coming out. We will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.